put together a little video for you this week on shoulders and neck. So this is a little piece that I like to do to counteract my harder practice, which is karate, and just to get things to soften a little afterwards. I like to work with just a little bit of a riser in underneath my head. So I'm going to come here and lie down. So just coming onto my back, I'm going to bend the knees up, feet flat on the floor and hip width apart. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to just go ahead and reach one arm up and see what it's like to reach that arm up towards the ceiling. So it's as if somebody is just slightly drawing the arm bone out of the shoulder socket. I'm putting very, very little effort into this. And then I'm just going to go and do the same on the other side. And what I'm doing is I'm noticing, do I have a side that feels easier to lift? Maybe it feels like it's more of a known pattern to me, or it just feels more comfortable. And because of the camera angle, I'm going to go with my left arm first of all. Both are actually feeling pretty similar today. So I'm going to float my left arm up. I have the arm here, so it's going to directly dropping down into the shoulder socket. I'm going to take my right hand across the front of my chest, so it's kind of this diagonal line. And I'm going to breathe out, I'm going to reach that arm up towards the ceiling, and I'm just noticing what's happening here underneath my right hand. And do I feel like I'm getting a kind of a softening, or nearly this very kind of soft kind of diagonal drag as I float that arm up? I'm not forcing it to happen, I'm just noticing if it's happening or not. I'm then going to slide the hand down underneath the chest onto the lower ribs, and I'm noticing the same thing here as I breathe out and reach the left hand up towards the ceiling. Am I getting a softening here in these front ribs or not? And again, I'm not forcing anything. So first thing, I just noticed if that's going on. And then I'm going to come down to my feet. And all I'm going to do is, on an out breath, I'm going to weight shift back into my heels. So as I breathe out, the front of the foot comes away from the floor, and I'm weight shifting back into the heels. And what I'm looking to notice here is, what does my pelvis do in response to this little weight shift on the heels? So as my weight rolls back onto the heels, what's happening in the pelvis? And what I'm noticing is I'm getting a similar weight shift on the back of my pelvis that I'm getting on the back of my heels. Again, I'm not forcing this connection. I'm clearly just noticing if it's there or not. So I'm going to put these two little movements together now. So I'm going to refloat that left arm up. And as I breathe out, I'm going to weight shift back onto both heels and reach this arm up at the same time. Again, I'm noticing, am I getting the softening down in the chest area on this side? Am I getting the softening down in the rib cage? If I was to bring my attention to my ASIS, or my little headlight bones, as I shift back into the heels, I've taken my right hand here onto the left headlight. Is that moving kind of in a headward direction? Am I getting this kind of scoop under of the pelvis, what's known as the posterior pelvic tilt? Just checking if these connections are there or not. You can then go ahead and do the same on the other side. So I float the right arm up, I'm breathing out as I lift. I can bring the left hand here onto the chest. Do I get a similar kind of softening down here? Or is something different happening on this side? Again, just quickly running through this, coming down onto the lower ribs. Am I feeling the same thing on this side, or is something different happening? And then I could add in that motion of weight shifting back onto the heels, breathing out, weight shift back onto the heels. Does my pelvis tuck under? Am I getting this nice softening down through the front of the rib cage? And then floating both arms up. We can do both at the same time. Breathing out as I weight shift back onto the heels. Arms reach up towards the ceiling. Do I get a softening in the chest? Do I get a softening in the rib cage? And then you can begin to notice what happens to the skull bone. And you might notice at the back of the skull that a weight shift similar to that that's happening at the back of the pelvis. So we're just looking out for these connections, seeing if they're there or not. So I'm going to go back to reaching the left arm up. And now I'm going to visualize my shoulder blade on the back of the rib cage. And you don't have to be too exact with this. So we can even visualize something that's not the shape of a shoulder blade and kind of draw a diagonal, or not a diagonal, draw a rectangle here on the front of the chest. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to visualize this rectangle. Now I'm aware of the shape of the shoulder blade not being a rectangle, but this is what our visual that we're going to use for this. And each time as we breathe out now, it's as if we're trying to press down into the floor underneath, pressing down in a different spot each time as we kind of travel around this diagonal, or rectangle. So I'm just pressing lightly in different spots here on the front of the body to see if this can kind of help me connect the back of the shoulder blade in a different kind of spot each time I breathe out and press down. And what I notice as I go across the top line here is that this involves my rib cage flaring up in front in order for me to imprint the top line of the shoulder blade down into the mat. As I come down along the side, I notice that my ribs here need to rotate a little bit towards my lengthened arms, or a little bit towards the left. As I come across the bottom line, I notice my ribs need to soften down. And as I come up the center line, kind of closer to where the spine center would be, I now notice in order to get this part of my shoulder blade imprinting into the mat, I need to allow my ribs to rotate a little bit towards the right. So once you've kind of played around with this, you can then get a proper visual of the shoulder blade. So it's like an upside down triangle. And we're going to see if we can actually begin to trace around the line of the shoulder blade. So this involves the ribs moving, the spine moving through extension and flexion and rotation, and the ribs moving through softening, flaring, rotating as well. So it requires a lot of movement. And then once we've gone around one way a few times, we can go and change the direction. So if you started clockwise, you can then go anti-clockwise. And all the time trying to do this with minimal effort. Once you've played around a bit on one shoulder blade, you can go ahead, pop the other arm up, and again, if you find it helpful, just to visualize something here on the front of the body, you can press down lightly into different areas each time you breathe out. I'm going to just go through this side a little bit quicker. Notice what the ribs do, notice what the spine does. And then you can begin to trace around the line of that shoulder blade. And of course it doesn't have to be exact. So any kind of movement here is going to be good. You can begin to notice if there are areas that are a little bit more difficult for you to go into. And then changing direction, breathing all the time, inviting this movement to be as effortless as we possibly can. And then let's go back to where we were in the beginning, floating one arm up, reach up towards the ceiling, floating the other arm up, reaching up towards the ceiling. Has anything changed? Floating both arms up. And then maybe adding in that little weight shift onto the back of the heels and play around with the distance of the heels from the backside. You can play around with reaching the arms a little bit more forward. The thing is, if we go ahead and we go to reach the arms back, you'll probably notice the opposite happening and you'll get a flaring of the rib cage. So we want those arms directly above the shoulder sockets or even a little bit out in front. So lighten the weight of the shoulder blades off of the mat. Breathing out, and then we could go the opposite way. Press the shoulder blades into the mat. Lighten, press, lighten, and press. Now I've gone through this very, very fast. You could spend a little bit longer on that. But check it out and see how the spine and ribs and neck and shoulders feel after it. Guys, enjoy!